Well, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome to Zyxel's Tech Talk. My name is Tri Wynn. I am the product manager and North American market development manager here at Zyxel North America. We're here to talk about some of the new products and also an overview of all of our products through our new partner solutions and how you as a partner could be better equipped to using our cloud solutions and our products to fulfill your networking needs for your customer. So we'll be covering a lot of ground here today because there's lots of products that we can talk about, but also about the solutions and how we can utilize that in your day-to-day, sales to your customers. If you're new here, I'd like to open it up to have questions and answers during the webinar. So if you'd like to use the Q&A section of the webinar, please do so, and I'll try to get to those as much as possible. I'm here in sunny Southern California, where we are getting howling winds out there. So our typical Santa Ana winds that are blowing through right now. So hopefully it doesn't cause too much noise or any disruptions to the process. But we're going to jump right in and go through the content that's here. And thank you for being here, and thank you for choosing to be a partner with us here at Zyxel. So just a little bit of background. Zyxel Networks has been around for over 35 years. We just celebrated last year our 35th anniversary. 100 million devices making connections worldwide, over 700 passionate employees in Zyxel Networks. A million businesses use Zyxel solutions today in 150 different markets worldwide. We are working with industry leaders and united as partners with them, using their expertise to providing different types of solutions, tools, and components that are part of the entire networking solution that we provide. Things on the security side, again, we leverage their expertise to benefit the networking community and to the partners that utilize these solutions. So partners like McAfee, Norton, Webroot, Bitdefender, as well as hosted services through Amazon and Azure. We are an award-winning brand internationally. There are awards that are not here that we just recently won as well, and you can see on our website through CRN that we're proud of, and our products that we have made and developed. Here in the channel side, in Zyxel Networks, we service the entire North American and Canada segments here. So David Chen manages Canada and the Eastern region, as you see in orange. Andy Gujral handles the West and Alaska. And then Jacob Olson handles the Midwest or the Central region that you see in gray. And we're here to help you with pre-sales support, tech support, get you tied to or connected with our distribution sales rep. Anything you need from stocking to special pricing approvals, meet comps or competitive price, matching, etc. We're here to help you with all of that. So utilize us. Make sure that we're in and participating with you in the pre-sales process with your customers to try to figure out what is the best solution available for those applications that you're trying to deploy. We have systems engineers as well that are on standby to help with the process as well, to make sure that you pick the right product solution mix and be able to propose that to your customers at the prices that you need it to be. So what I wanted to introduce to you, the most important piece that kind of glues the entire solution, all the different products, all the different technologies together. And this is our award-winning Nebula platform, Nebula Cloud platform. So just an introduction on how traditionally managed solutions today work versus what you're going to get through the Nebula Cloud portion. So if you're trying to build out a network, even whether it be break fix or if it's some sort of managed services, there's a lot of pieces that kind of come into play. Things that you need to make sure that you have in the background, things, servers and management tools, as well as the hardware itself. So you have to purchase the equipment. You have to actually install the equipment. So there could be some, pre-configuration. There's some installs on site, things like that. You have to then have some sort of solution to monitor the equipment, SNMP, maybe syslog, maybe some other ways to do management logs, etc., to all the different types of equipment. You also have to have access to the equipment if you want to actively manage it. You have to be able to VPN tunnel to it. You have to be able to have a backdoor or remote desktop client. You then have to deploy some sort of monitoring platform like a SolarWinds, and so that requires investment into all of that. You have to then store all of that information and data, whether it be on premise or in the virtual or in the cloud or in a data center. You have to then manage how do you do updates, setting changes, configurations, and how do you manage that across multiple customers. Now, of course, if you're just an IT person and you're just managing for a single location, then you kind of have all of this kind of encompassed, into your own office in itself. But as you're managing it for other devices, you're trying to manage the users, and the devices that are remote. You have to try to find ways to do that, or maybe universalize the authentication between devices and users. Maybe going from different buildings, or if they are VPNing from home, how do you manage all those devices and users, as well as managing potentially guest networks as well? Now, what Nebula offers to you is basically all of these components, but in a much simpler, more cost-effective way, because you don't have to develop or install all of these things on your own. You still have to purchase the equipment, you still have to do some sort of installation, but because of the simplicity that I'll explain on how you could provision these types of products, it helps the install time and the truck rolls to be very efficient. You no longer need to have monitoring equipment. You can use what is there in the cloud today in the Nebula Cloud platform. It gives you automated access to the equipment. As long as there's internet connectivity, there is a way to get to the device, basically to make configurations, get information from it, and to use it for troubleshooting. It offers a monitoring platform already. So you're able to monitor the switches, the gateways, the wireless, anything that's in there. You don't have to worry about the data storage part. It just it's all part of the subscriptions that are in the cloud. If you want to have 365 days, you just need the pro package license, then you'll have 365 days. We still offer a free option in the cloud today. Simplifying updates you don't have to worry about, because we can make it an automated system, or you can schedule those updates when it makes sense for you or your customers to get those kinds of upgrades to firmware or changes in the configuration. And you still have to manage the user device management in a sense, in that you can utilize the cloud to manage authentication like Radius built into it. Also built into the Nebula Cloud platform is Captive Portal. So you just have to manage, well, who or what gets access to the guest network from the cloud. So all of that helps to mitigate kind of the expenses that would come when you are trying to build out a network. So if some of you are starting out as, a VAR MSP, or looking to become a larger MSP and want to standardize on a kind of a core network solution, then this is the case for, this is the perfect product for you. It's hassle-free, free networking management offering there. So there's a dashboard basically that you can get access to via the Nebula Cloud. You can set up without even unboxing the unit, meaning that you can scan the QR codes that are there, or enter in the MAC serial into your account, or using the Nebula app to scan in those QR codes. You can apply it to a certain site or customer, and I'll talk about how that's kind of broken up between organizations and sites. And then that's it. You can then configure those devices before they are even powered on or delivered to the customer. And that's the benefit of it, because you can then get up and running in just minutes. Because once the device is on the cloud and it gets access to the internet when it's plugged in, the devices automatically call home to the Nebula Cloud and say, "Hey, who do I belong to? What's my customer profile? What's the latest firmware?" And give me then the configuration for that site that you've already pre-configured. So really, that makes it a very simple management capable auto provisioning function of those devices. You have access to the interface and configurations and troubleshooting tools anytime, anywhere you have internet access with any device. So you can use a mobile device, a tablet, a PC, whether you're sitting on a beach, somewhere you have access to the internet, which pretty much today in today's day and age is anywhere, anytime. You have control an ability to make changes or to look at and troubleshoot any kind of networking issues that might arise on that customer network. And you can manage customers across the board, multiple customers with multiple sites each on a single pane of glass. So that makes it a very powerful tool for you. There's no additional hardware or software that you need to install into those networks. You just need the device itself. So if you want a managed firewall, a managed switch, or a cloud managed access point, you don't need all three. You can have just one of those three or any combination of that. There's no cloud key you have to install. There's no remote desktop machine. There's no separate, device that you put on the network to help it manage. Nothing. It's all the agents are all built into each individual device. So that makes it a lot easier for you to deploy and manage. And then you can manage guest network access as well. So if you want captive portal with vouchers, you want user and device management, you want auto guest protection with guest-based isolation. So you can isolate guest networks from anything else. That's all doable within this Nebula Cloud platform, managing those devices. So again, I'm not talking about the hardware technology yet. I'm talking about what over-encompassing is the benefit of using the equipment, obviously, but the technology can be interchangeable with other devices that are supported within our Nebula Cloud platform. Remote access, remote workplaces can be simplified through this management, being able to establish site-to-site VPN for your customers, maybe from site 1 to site 2, being able to create those VPN tunnels quickly and easily, site-to-site, hub-spoke, fully meshed VPN connections, maybe client-to-site that you're doing for home users or remote users. All of those make it easily manageable within this cloud platform as well. So things that maybe if you're not used to doing, like VPN, you need it, but it's been, it's complex because of all the different settings that could be there. But what we do is we put through, best practice. So the only thing you really need to come up with is whether you're doing two-factor authentication or a certain, passphrase key that you're utilizing for that VPN tunnel for that user. But you can basically use the user's information and log in as well as part of that VPN tunnel build. So that's how you could, further secure those tunnels. It has built-in user management, so you don't have to install your own Radius servers. You could tie it in with other ones, but you could primarily just do everything standalone within this Nebula Cloud platform. You could do two-factor authentication. You can use it for WPA2 or WPA3 enterprise Wi-Fi authentication. You could use it for user access, for guest network access, or even management access to the network. And then updates are fast, free, over the internet. So configuration changes, all of that gets pushed. Firmware gets upgraded, can get pushed and scheduled and automated depending on what your customer site requirements are. Maybe they are just set for just auto update whenever the new one comes out, and just go from there. Or there's a lot of MSPs, ISPs who say we want to go on a specific schedule because we want to do a rollout. So that's up to you how you want to do that, but it's quick and easy. It's made for that automated field, that auto provisioning, auto deploy. You could cross synchronize configurations within different sites on that organization. You can create templates. You can synchronize settings. You can do easy VPN, like I mentioned earlier. You can do cloud backup and restore those configurations with switches. And then soon, this month, it's going to be for cloud restore of firewalls as well. You can still back them up already, but there's an easy, quick restore and for RMA kind of purposes. If you're doing, even those who may utilize this for a break fix scenario will benefit because now you have visibility and you have the ability to quickly change out an RMA, a break device, and automate a new device taking in that configuration and entity. You can clone sites and configurations as well. So you can create these templates, or you have a certain type of customer that already has a base setting that you can then clone to a new customer or maybe a new site. Maybe you're doing multiple retail sites for the same customer. You can clone that so that then you can make some minor changes to that configuration to match the new customer or to the new site. Hassle-free auto deployment, because once it's plugged in and played and it's on the internet, it grabs down those configurations. So that way you can still pre-configure these devices even before it's taken out of the box. Now, just imagine from a deployment standpoint, you could literally say, all right, here are the three devices. I'm going to scan in the switch gateway access point, put it onto, you could ship it to the customer for a self-install, or you can give it to one or two of your technicians to start heading that way. By the time that he's already there, the configuration is already ready for him to plug in, for them to plug in and get on the internet, grab this configuration and be able just to test the connectivity and be on their way. So it's quite effective in that regard. We have also full enterprise level wireless connectivity functionalities like mesh, WPA3, enterprise security, roaming as a standard, traffic shaping, security at the edge with connect and protect and collaborative defense response, and then active and advanced Wi-Fi features like Wi-Fi aid, Wi-Fi health, and using machine learning that help to fix any kind of Wi-Fi issues that are there to try to maybe move customers to different channels or different bands in order to facilitate a cleaner Wi-Fi environment. Scheduling SSIDs to turn on and off if you needed to, again, for more maximized security. If nobody's using the Wi-Fi at night, then it probably shouldn't be on broadcasting for somebody who potentially is not supposed to be there at that time. Dynamic personal pre-shared key as well. So using the same SSID, but based on that passphrase that you use, puts you on your own network. So now you can see, maybe imagine a office network. So whether you're a guest, whether you are a private user, whether you're on a different segment of it, based on that pre-shared key that you use, puts you into that bucket, puts you into that VLAN that is separate from anybody else. With Nebula, you can visualize your network like never before. It can auto topology. It can look at different VPN connectivity, gives you signal, port, status, PoE connection, utilization, all of those kinds of things that you would typically find in a very costly management solution is now available here, including live diagnostics. So you could do remote cable testing as well. You know, if you're using one of our switches and using Nebula to tell that switch to do a cable test, almost like a loop test, and be able to figure out if there's any problems with that cabling, again, for your troubleshooting needs, as well as visualizing Wi-Fi connectivity, Wi-Fi users who are connected to what access point and what their DBM, what's their wireless signal. Right now, if you're troubleshooting wireless today, I don't know if I have poor signal. The only thing I can tell is on my phone, it says either 2, 3, 4 bars on my connection, right? But it doesn't give you much information. It's hard to kind of find that unless you're using a specific tool. With Nebula, you can see what the AP itself is seeing in the device, and it can say, hey, I see Try's iPhone, and it is at minus 75 dBm. So you can utilize that information if somebody's at neg 92. Maybe that's why they're complaining that they're having poor Wi-Fi or they can't get connectivity. You can utilize that information, where they're at, what AP they're connected to. Is it because they're not roaming? Is it because they are just outside the building that they're complaining? Those are the kinds of things that you could use to maybe install better coverage, install new devices, APs in that area to give better coverage if that's what they need. And so, you know, that all is that visualization is very super helpful for anybody, especially if those of you who are in kind of the break fix model. That is kind of the ultimate invisibility to help you to know when they call you and say, I'm having problems. If you have no visibility, there's no way for you to tell. You know, you have to roll a truck, whether it be that, oh, the power was turned off on one of the devices. You wouldn't even know that happened without this kind of visibility that you can get with this Nebula Cloud. And then security. Security is very important from a networking standpoint, because if any of that happens to be compromised, your entire network and productivity for that customer could potentially be gone. So making sure that network security is always there, always evolving, making sure that all of the security holes are patched in the latest firmwares, things like that to protect those customers and those networks. Switching, making sure that you're delivering enough power, being able to extend that that VPN, the VLAN throughout the network, be able to manage voice networks and VLAN and quality of service of those different protocols is also important to making sure that the network is running seamlessly as possible and as efficiently as possible. That way, those services aren't affected by maybe people downloading or high traffic type environments, or even scenarios where somebody is compromised and is flooding the network. You have abilities within these solutions to detect that and to be able to mitigate that to prevent those kinds of networking issues. And today, Nebula currently supports over 100 different Zyxel networking devices, including switches, security, Wi-Fi, and LTE products today. So it gives you a great option on what to kind of standardize and what to test to for these kinds of complete networking solutions there. So Nebula comes in kind of three flavors in terms of its cloud packages. All products that are Nebula enabled can operate on the base pack. Right now, the base pack is free. There's no cost to you. There is only a 24-hour log. So for those who are using, again, break fix model, it's perfect for you. It doesn't cost you anything, but gives you visibility. The only thing you have to do is make sure you log in, at least once a month to look at the account so that it keeps the kind of the logs running on that, keeps it active. But if you want to offer like a managed service, or maybe some of your customers are more sensitive or security minded, that you need to have 365 days of logs, then you can move to the Pro Pack. There's a 30-day trial on all products that are capable of Nebula. If you want to try that Pro Pack features, and it unlocks all of the like AI functionality and the full networking potential of all the features on those products. And then if you're an MSP and are looking for kind of a global management, cross-organizational management, maybe multiple admins on your account, the MSP pack would be something that you might want to consider. And it allows for you to, I would say if you have more than 10 to 20 customers, or more than, 5 technicians that you want to kind of disperse the load between different customers, then that might be something to consider there. So from a wireless technology standpoint, again, Nebula is that over-encompassing kind of solution, the umbrella solution there that kind of ties it all together. And technology like wireless, switching, firewalls comes and goes. It changes all the time. But that's why it's important to have that Nebula as that foundation, because these products are kind of like little widgets that operate and provide you with that service. But then the Nebula Cloud Platform ties it all together and makes sure that no matter what the technology is, you still have these overarching functionalities that what customers really need. So on the wireless side, we are proud that we take the RF design and make it a priority. So we use and design our products in a way that maximizes, its capabilities, its throughput, as well as mitigate interference and things that might affect its performance throughout the network. So one of our main selling points is our smart antenna technology, and I'll tell you why it's important. So the number one reason why we have great Wi-Fi signal, but zero traffic or maybe slow traffic, even in a great Wi-Fi signal environment, is because there's what we call co-channel interference. It's basically a bunch of people, bunch of devices trying to talk all at the same time. Or in this example, everybody's driving down the same highway and they're merging together. They're all trying to take that same space. The more cars you have, the more devices you have, the more interference you're going to have. I kind of equate this to like a conference, or if you're going to a trade show. If you only have 5 people in a giant conference room, it's really easy to talk. It's really easy to communicate. It's really easy to hear one another, and you don't have to repeat yourself. Whereas when it starts building up, and now all of a sudden in this room, you start having hundreds or thousands, the background noise starts to rise, which just like Wi-Fi, there's background noise that starts to rise. And now, even though I'm standing right next to you, I'm having a hard time communicating to you. I'm having to repeat myself. And that's exactly what co-channel interference is like. And so we've developed our products to kind of help to facilitate interference. That's the number one reason you need, or the number one thing you need to try to mitigate to improve Wi-Fi performance. So we do have a product line. We have base product lines where the antennas are just set, right? That's your traditional, like omnidirectional type antennas. And then we also develop products that are called dual optimized antennas. They typically have a D in the end of the name. So, model name with a D at the end means it's dual optimized antenna, meaning that it's made to either do ceiling mounted or wall mounted, and it can switch how the antenna kind of array facilitates the signal. So in a case where maybe antennas or APs that are traditionally just made to be mounted on ceilings, if you happen to, because you couldn't put it on a ceiling, you put it against a wall, the signal is still made for ceiling mount. So then it's going in a, more vertical up and down orientation when you placed it in that kind of that set, against the wall. So now your signal is going between floors, not really going out to the floor, and you're causing interference between the floors if you have APs on every floor. Now you virtually can switch that device within the interface. You can flip the toggle basically and change it into a wall mounted configuration. And now that same AP is now going to put the signaling out from, from the top of its placement. And now it's going to be traversing across the floor rather than being, up between the floors, now causing less interference, but then making a better overall Wi-Fi solution there. So then you're not causing interference with each other, with your devices, or maybe any other customer devices that are out there. The other solution, in order to mitigate, co-channel interference when you have multiple devices or multiple APs in the area, is, well, the common thing is to turn down the power. That's the traditional thing to do. But if you're going to turn down the power, you're going to have a much smaller coverage area. There's not much overlap. So most of our offices are not circles. And where you put the devices, they're not typically in the middle of the building, right? It's like there's always places that you can't put. So you have to kind of space it out in a way. But those devices that are out of the coverage are going to have poor Wi-Fi signal. And so what smart antenna does is it helps to increase the capacity by increasing coverage, reducing the interference that are there. So how does smart antenna work? So these are kind of your conventional antennas, the omnidirectionals and the directional antennas. And in smart antenna, what it does is if there's interference, it actually will check up to 700 different patterns. So we'll check to see where the client is, and we'll automatically find a shape of the antenna that will mitigate the interference while maximizing the connectivity with the client. So the benefit is that it doesn't require anything from that Wi-Fi client. We're doing all the work from the AP side to making this signal connection, improving the receive and improving the transmit. That's my analogy for how this smart antenna is working. It's literally listening better in that direction. And even as the client is moving, it will change its pattern as necessary to find the best optimal solution while, mitigating any noise behind it. So it's only listening, in this case, forward, and any noise behind it is ignored or at least mitigated. So that's how a smart antenna works, and it's a patented technology that we're proud of, and it helps to really bring in applications where you might have high density, or you might have, in schools or in conference centers, high density, a lot of devices, or places that have a lot of interference, like maybe warehouses or schools, things like that, that smart antenna would be perfect and ideal for those scenarios. So we have a wide range of Wi-Fi APs, again, like I said, on the kind of the value end where it's just a single device setup for a small office, but then all the way to kind of an enterprise level deployment where you might have hundreds of APs in a single network that you're trying to manage and also manage the channelizations and all that. But one of the big flagship technologies that you probably hear about is Wi-Fi 7. and Wi-Fi 7 is continually to grow and continue to kind of take over. And one of the biggest things is not only the throughput, that it's 5 times faster, but I think the most important piece is that it helps for you to now uh, mitigate interference by having devices operate on the 6 gigahertz range. So multi-link operation is a huge benefit and a huge jump, even if your customer is not needing the extra bandwidth, right? Who needs right now 22 gigs of Wi-Fi or 10 gigs of Wi-Fi uh, through that? Because maybe your internet connection is probably less than that. It's probably gigabit or 2.5 gig. So getting a 10 gig or higher connectivity is probably rare in your scenarios or your customer scenarios right now. But this is going to be the ultimate, the biggest benefit is multi-link operation. Right now, in order for your device to talk to a traditional access point on 2.4 or 5 gigahertz with Wi-Fi 6, it has to choose one or the other, right? You can't do both. So you have to pick. And so we use AI today to try to find what is the best channel or which band is best, and then force the device user to connect to those. And so it helps to mitigate that traffic. But with multi-link operation and 6 gigahertz, now all of a sudden you can connect to one or all of those, depending on the client, what it supports. But typically it's going to support at least two different bands at the same time. So imagine talking to this access point at 2.4, talking to a near access point at 6 gigahertz, finding the packets that you need in order to make that connectivity. It then lowers latency and makes it more reliable. It helps to avoid interference and increase the data rates at the same time. So that's going to be the overall benefit of Wi-Fi 7. Now, one step above that, what happens now if you use Wi-Fi 7 and smart antenna? So that's going to be the crazy thing, is that we've launched the world's first Wi-Fi 7 with smart antenna WBE 660S. It's a BE 22,000, which is capable of 22 gigabits per second on the theoretical configuration there for the device. But realistically, you're going to see, way past gig, 10 gig type throughputs for this if you need it, if you have the kind of the network to manage that. In fact, the device itself has 10 gig uplinks as well. So it has a 10 gig port. It has heat spreaders, but more importantly, it has that smart antenna technology. So now imagine smart antenna APs talking to these devices on multiple channels or multiple bands at the same time, multiple APs talking at that same time as well. So then it helps to increase overall throughput, and coverage. Interference is mitigated because we know 2.4 has usually better signal, but very slow. So you can kind of feed that plus any 5 gigahertz or maybe any 6 gigahertz that can help to improve maybe more of that throughput to give you overall bandwidth that can better satisfy those kinds of scenarios and those solutions. These are all PoE enabled devices. Pretty much all of our APs that we have today are PoE capable. Some of them have DC adapter options that you could buy a power supply brick for. This particular device has a USB-C port that you could use to power the device as well. So that's something to consider in this flagship model. So you can use this in high density locations. You can use this in, again, large areas. Maybe it's a carport, maybe it's a large retail building, auto dealerships. We've had these deployed in as well, or maybe high bandwidth applications that need, low latency. So, maybe TV broadcasting, VR, AR streaming, those kinds of things as well. But of course, everybody just, as your devices, as your phones, the technology has Wi-Fi 7 built in, more and more likely they are going to use it or want it in the offices or in the public areas. We'll see a lot of that kind of upgrade cycle happen. Now, most offices are perfectly fine with Wi-Fi 6, and I would say, like, for those kind of customers, great. But if you have a customer that says, I always have and always been struggling with Wi-Fi signaling, throughputs, coverage, that's something to consider, either the Wi-Fi 6 smart antenna or the Wi-Fi 7 smart antenna product, because you'll see a drastic improvement to those kinds of connection issues. On the wired side, I think this is something that maybe people, partners and customers maybe overlook. They just look for, well, what is the lowest, most cost effective kind of product for switching? The issue is that the infrastructure, the core of your network that's delivering all that traffic and making sure that it's secure, it's VLAN properly, making sure that it's not being disrupted by, a broadcast storm or something like that. Things that could affect the overall experience of something like Wi-Fi. It's very important to make sure that that infrastructure on the wired side um, is kind of planned in mind, just as you would plan a Wi-Fi solution. Make sure that you also consider the switching side on what you choose for that, making sure that it has enough power. So PoE is important in today's day and age, whether it's powering up phones, IP cameras, access points, maybe it's access control panels, or even today we see LED lighting that's light systems that are being powered by PoE as well. And so we sell into those markets, but know that the cabling is important. So if you do have some older customers who maybe haven't changed out their cabling in a while, but they want to get to high PoE power, but plus longer distances or higher throughput speeds, this chart is kind of helpful with that, to be providing the PoE power. Really, if you can get Cat5e, you can go 100 meters at 5 gig. But then if you need to get to 10 gig networks, then you definitely want to go to Cat 6 or Cat 6A. The three PoE standards that we're used to today, of course, there's a 90 watt that's there as part of the PoE++ as well. But the standards, most of our switches are 30 watt PoE capable. But then there's a growing number, especially in our multi-gig switching network, that provide you the 60 watt. It's because it's driven by a lot of the access points that are out there in the market, including our own. Most of them will do 30 watts, so you're good there. But all the higher end models, like the Wi-Fi 7 that has the triple radio, or maybe the outdoor that has a built-in heater, those ones require a 60 watt standard in order to keep enough power for those devices. So just know that we have that whole solution. And then on the switching naming, it's pretty straightforward with the market today. ES is something that we don't use anymore, really, because it's just 100 meg. RG is like a ruggedized switch, so that's what it starts with. GS is a gigabit switch. An MG switch is a multi-gig switch, multi-gigabit. So typically they're 2.5 gig ports. XGS is a 10 gig gigabit switch, meaning that it's mostly gigabit ports, but then X is the Roman numeral for 10, so it has 10 gig uplinks. XMG are typically 2.5, 5 gig with also 10 gig uplinks. So they're multi-gig switching. And then if you have a switch that is an XS, then it's just a 10 gig switch, meaning all ports are capable of up to 10 gig. It's still, maybe today's day and age, it's still considered a multi-gig because it can still support gig, 2.5, 5, and 10 gig on those ports. But all of the ports typically are in that range, not just one of them, or not just a few of them. If it ends in HP, then it's a PoE plus or PoE plus plus. If it's an EP, it's like an eco power, so it's a lower power budget. So then it's more cost effective for environments or solutions that you don't need that maximum power. And then FP is kind of like full power, so it's larger power budgets. It can go 900 plus watts in some of those switches that do the F functionality. And then if it ends in just F, then that's usually a fiber switch, meaning that all the ports typically are fiber transceiver capable ports, and then it'll have some copper uplink ports on the side. And then we have a full array combinations of SFP, gigabit, 10 gig, gigabit transceivers, as well as direct attached cables for you to make easy fiber connections between those. And we have a full line of product as well. Everything from a 1915 series and above, they're all Nebula cloud manageable. We do have some unmanaged, products that are on the kind of the lower tier end that we don't talk about here, but you can still buy, but they're not part of our partner program. We know that partners who install who do active management. Those are the products that would be used here, or they would use these products here in order to facilitate that. And that's what we would encourage. And then the Ultimate series and Project series, those are really for like if you're looking at doing more complex environments for like schools, or you have um, scenarios where you're doing triple play with voice video data, and you're needing to maximize security on those as well as bandwidth control, security, MAC address security, things like that. Those are the kind of products that you could use in that. Or maybe you as a customer are looking to deploy products that you require Cisco like CLI. That's what your technicians like to use. Then those are the products that also are capable of that. But primarily, I would say most customers will be using the flexibility side of things because it's flexible. It could be used in the cloud, or it could just be used as standalone, and it has kind of the best, mix of products for your average SMB. But we do have some partners who just standardize onto the Ultimate series because they just go with, this one. They know they can do everything on it. They can just standardize on it, get all of their functionalities to that customer as needed. So we just launched a PoE 12-90W, meaning that's a PoE injector that has 90 watts of power capable of it, and a 10 gig uplink. The current one's the 60 watt has a 5 gig uplink, and then the 30 watt PoE injector has a 2.5 gig uplink on it. So these are great for powering up cameras, pan tilt zoom cameras, or APs. If you're just looking at the one-off, you need an injector to power up lighting or whatever it may be that needs 30 watt, 60 watt, or 90 watt. This is what you would choose. We have gigabit versions of all of these models that I'm going to talk about, but today I'm going to focus mostly on the multi-gig. That is the trend that everything is moving towards. So beyond gigabit is multi-gig. So being able to offer something like the XMG 1915 gives you then multi-gig 2.5 gig ports, as well as then gigabit uplinks, and 10 gig uplink ports to satisfy that with and without PoE. Because it's the 1915 series, it's also Nebula Cloud manageable. We call that Nebula Flex. So it's flexible to be standalone or in the cloud managed. Our GS 1915, it's a gigabit switch, but one functionality or its main purpose is for CCTV applications for IP cameras. So it has features like continuous PoE, extended range, so it can actually go 250 meters of PoE and data instead of your standard 100 meters. So if you're looking to extend a camera beyond your typical Ethernet run, this is the kind of solution that you would want to enable. It also has slightly higher power budgets, gives you a 16 port option as well as a 24 port option. This is kind of like one of the few models that we have that have a 16 port model version. So it has a 6 port, an 8 port, 16 port, 24 port. And it also has some extended surge protection as well. The XGS 1930 series is phasing, as I would say, phasing through, and we'll be launching in February our XGS 1935 series that replaces that series model. So this is a 10 gig uplink with gigabit ports with and without PoE, 24 port and 48 port versions. So it'll be pretty much the same as what you were used to if you were using our XGS 1930s today. The XS 1930 is a layer 2 switch that has then 10 gig ports. We have a fiber version where it's all 10 gig fiber capable, or we have a non-PoE copper and then a PoE copper. The PoE copper gives you a 375 watt budget on 8 ports. So if you're looking to power up, 8 Wi-Fi 7 access points, this is probably your option to use to not only give you 10 gig uplinks on those APs, but then give you the adequate power necessary for it as well. And then our XMG 1930 series. Now just to also a little caveat as well. All the 1930 series has what we call a layer 3 software upgrade. So you can actually enable an AV mode. So if you're doing AV over IP or network AV type scenarios, or you need to add some layer 3 functionalities as well as CLI capabilities. All the 1930 series models have a one-time upgrade license that unlocks those functionalities for you. So keep that in mind. It's very cost effective, I would say, to then standardize on a single model, whether you want to use it for layer 2 functions and then use that same model to go to a layer 3 functionality in that hardware. But the XMG 1930 is a multi-gig switch, meaning most of its ports are 2.5 gig capable. And then there's 4 ports that can do 10 gig copper. And then you have an additional 2 10 gig SFP plus fiber port there as well. And one thing that it does boast is the PoE model version provides you up to 700 watts of PoE power. Now, with PoE power, one differentiator that Zyxel has is we use what we call consumption mode. I call it intelligent PoE, meaning that the devices will only put against its budget what those devices are actually drawing power for. So even though it's classified as a 30 watt, you need 30 watts for that device. If it's only drawing 15 or 16 watt, we're only putting 15 or 16 watt against that 700 watt budget. So that means you could power up more devices than a lot of the competitors are out there that are using classification mode within the devices. So that really helps to kind of help you plan out how much PoE power you really need, even though the power budget number looks like it might be a little bit lower than maybe another device that you see out there. But because of that consumption mode, you actually can maximize what you need to power without having such a large power supply. XGS 2220 series, it's our layer 3 access stackable switches with versions that can go from 400 watt, 600 watt to 960 watt of PoE power. These ones come built in with 1 year of Nebula Flex Pro, so you don't have to buy that additional license. It gives you 10 gig uplinks, but then gigabit ports there and port options. Our XS 3800 is also a Nebula Flex Pro product. It's primarily 10 gig and 10 gig copper, 10 gig fiber, or maybe combo ports that allow for you to switch between one or the other, depending on what your needs. So these could be a top of the rack switch. It could be an aggregation switch within the network to aggregating all of the other 10 gig capable, switches that are out there, or you can go directly to it. That switch doesn't have any PoE though, so it's primarily more of an aggregation type switch. So whether you're connecting an office, any kind of complex scenario office, these switches will be best for that. There's a lot of more features that are there that's very important, I would say, from a switch security standpoint, but that could be for another webinar, or we can talk to you if you're interested in learning more about that. So on the security side, we'll just go through very quickly with the last several minutes that we have here on this webinar. So we cover a lot of different security options because we empower our equipment with some of the best in class security experts that are out there providing different aspects of the security solution. Remember, network security is no longer just a port open. There's all sorts of malware. There's also ransomware. There's IP based. There's geolocation based kind of functionalities of protection that you need to enable. Maybe different types of applications that you want to control. All of that is then managed through all of these solutions that these partners provide for us. And we partner with them to providing those solutions to you to protect as a holistic networking UTM solution, similar to all the main top brands that are out there in terms of providing security services. And we are also a CVE entity, meaning that any kind of vulnerabilities that is detected and reported, we can actually create those to advise the public. And so you have to be a CVE authority in order to do that. And so Zyxel is one of those as well. So we can report against that. And if you are using or want to try out some of that, some of these services, we offer 30-day trials on pretty much any one of those services, including the gold security license in our ATP, USG Flexes, and USG Flex H models, meaning you can enable sandboxing, IP reputation filtering, the threat management, application patrol, all of those security solutions. I advise partners to turn them on so that they can showcase it to their customers, because what it does is It provides reporting, gives you network intelligence, visibility on what's happening from the internet side, trying to either breach or attack or scan your network or that customer's network. You can monitor that. You can create customized reporting against that. You can showcase who is using what application, and utilizing the most bandwidth. And that way you can showcase that to the IT director or maybe the owner of the company and said, here, in these 30 days, this is what we blocked against. This is what the information that you would be getting monthly if you were to subscribe to this service. That's going to be a great benefit to, especially for a managed service, kind of offering that you're going to provide to your customers. Gives them value. It gives it value on what you're doing, what they're paying for, and be able to tangibly see what they're paying for. You can customize those reports on the pro level. That way you can put your own logos and you can send out monthly reports along with your bill. The product line stretches from the lower end all the way up to the higher end type products. So our USG lights going to the USG Flex series, and then our ultimate USG Flex H high performance systems that are out there. One of the new products that have just launched is our USG Light 60AX. It's kind of an all-in-one, kind of for your home office, small office, or maybe small retail office. We are also seeing this in the kind of the POS space. If you're just needing a router with built-in Wi-Fi that has some level of security, but you don't want to have to pay for yearly subscriptions, this is an option that gives you built-in ransomware protection. You can then upgrade the Elite Pack if you want to have more zero-day protection against malware and ransomware protection, as well as content filtering services. And so this, again, also works with Nebula. So you can auto provision that, get it up and running in minutes very quickly and easily, and offers then a dual multi-gig port. So 2.5 gig capable ports, as well as gigabit ports and Wi-Fi 6 capable access point that can be Wi-Fi meshed with any one of our other Nebula access points that we're selling today. So if you need to extend the network a couple more nodes, then you can do that quickly and easily without having to run Ethernet cabling. You get that real-time reporting as well as you would with this product, like you do on our USG models. It simplifies, especially for MSPs. If you're looking to do hundreds of locations, you can standardize on this kind of product as well. And it uses our award-winning Nebula Cloud platform. The USG Flex is where most of our customers and partners use today because it's, again, flexible. It can be used as a standalone device, basic firewall, but we encourage people, if you have the capabilities in a firewall, why not use it in order to provide you maximum network security? And so it's able to do URL threat filtering, sandboxing, enhanced UTM with content filtering, all of that you would typically find in a gateway firewall appliance and security appliance. Don't be fooled by those that just do just IPS or just does content filtering. You think you're safe, but from a networking perspective, you're still just wide open on those other aspects that you could be attacked on. So this holistic approach is kind of your best option. And if you're looking for if customers are looking for higher speed, higher performance, maybe they're upgrading to a gigabit network and you still require that full line of security. This ultra high performance H series models can deliver up to 15 gigabits of SPI throughput on that higher on model, including up to over 4 gigabits of UTM performance on that high model. So if you're looking at a customer having gigabit or multi-gig connectivity on their service and don't want to break the bank and be able to offer still all of that security that you need on a network, this is the product you have. Also, just to notify you as well, there's a new firmware upgrade that comes out on the 13th this month that enables additional Nebula cloud management directly within Nebula. So you don't have to manage it on a kind of a standalone base that it's currently done right now. So it's great for teleworkers on the USG Lite. Again, if you want to build VPN tunnels from a home office or from a remote connectivity there, or if you're trying to connect offices to offices or just empower security onto the devices or onto an office space, then the USG Flex H series is probably best for that. But then holistically, you can service an entire company that has multiple sites, multiple remotes, multiple branch offices, and interconnect them as well using our solutions. So our program, if you haven't already signed up, it's called the ZAP program, the Zyxel Approved Partner Program. It comes as bronze, silver, and gold. We want you to have we want you to have major discounts on the gold side of things. The only requirement is qualifying sales of 12K in 6 months. So it's about 2K per month. If you can maintain that, then you're going to get your maximum discounts through distribution. Otherwise, if you're just new to sign up, you start off at silver, and then bronze. You still get some discounts. This says none, but you do get some discounts there through distribution. Also, we work through D&H, Ingram, TD SYNNEX, Wave, Target Distribution, and now Blue Star in Canada. So if you'd like to connect with us on LinkedIn, just look for Zyxel-US-channel, or on YouTube. You can find videos of this and also training videos on Zyxel America channel. If you want to connect with myself on LinkedIn, I'm just search for Zyxel Tri. That's ZYXELTRI, and you'll be able to find me on that search. So we have a few minutes left, maybe a couple minutes. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A section to ask those questions. If you do have a question there, Amanda, I see your hand is up. Maybe you have a question. Please use that, and I will try to answer those questions. If not, if you don't think of a question now, but you want to ask a question later, maybe you're digesting what I've been presenting today, you can always email me as well. It's tri@zyxel.com. So that would be great. If you want to tell me, give me feedback on this presentation, or maybe certain topics that you would like for us to dive deeper in. We have a whole array of products that webinars that are coming up, including ones based on security that might be of interest to you. You can check out our webinar page on our website, and be able to sign up for those as well. So we're going to be doing a big campaign, just to let you know, those who stuck around till the end here. We're planning on providing you with access to a free demo kit of our Nebula Cloud platform. So we'll be announcing that shortly and have those available to you probably by the end of the month, that you can start taking advantage of testing and seeing how the complete solution of firewall, switches, and access points can best facilitate solutions for you and your customers. Amanda asked, what package is best for hotel on Nebula? It really depends on what kind of hotel, Amanda. So we've deployed from very simple access points, because it's like a motel scenario, where you can only deploy outdoors. It's an outdoor facing, or the doors open to the outdoors type motel scenario. We have other ones where it's a very complex layout, where they can only put certain types of access, or they can only deploy Ethernet to certain areas. So really every hotel is kind of built differently. I always like, obviously, the smart antenna access point, because it gives you then a great, overall coverage. But obviously sometimes budget is a concern or an issue. So then we have to kind of move down. So hotels, kind of like the old UAG 2100s, those UAGs are now kind of almost like built into the Nebula platform. So it's more about choosing which access point or which switches that are in that network, because you can still do those functions of the UAG in the Nebula Cloud platform for guest network access. So you can still do your splash page if you want to do coupon vouchers, things like that within the Nebula side. So I would say the lowest entry point is you just need access points. So which access points to use will depend on how you need to deploy or where you want that coverage of it, to exist. So that's what I would say. And then of course the switches that power it. You don't necessarily need the gateway portion of it. If you already have an existing gateway, that's just fine. You can still do guest network based access on that Wi-Fi access point. As long as you have the access point, you turn on Nebula with the guest network functionality, So those would have to be pro in order for you to have more than just a portal redirect like terms of service. If you're trying to do things a little bit more complex for that guest network side, then you want to then have the pro access so that you can create the different like coupon codes or guest login type scenarios there. But I would say from a Wi-Fi technology, it's really what is the budget and what technologies, where can we put these access points, and then to maximize kind of the coverage and what you're trying to accomplish. Is it I just need access to the email. I just want to give them access so they can access some things. But um, if you want them to have access to do streaming, or if you want to do public like VPNing or things like that, or heavy downloading, then we have to make sure that we build out properly that network to facilitate that. So just get in touch with us. We can put you in touch with our sales rep as well as the systems engineer to talk through. We can look at a hotel layout to see what best will fit there. We've done many, many, many different types of hospitality solutions out there. So we definitely would bring our expertise to help you with that. Thank you for your question. I guess that's it for questions because it is 12:01 now. I did take 1 extra minute answering that question. So apologize for that, but thank you for being here. Thank you for spending this hour with me. Hopefully it's been informative and look forward to talking to you again soon at another webinar. So till next time, have a great rest of your day. Happy New Year, and hope everything is well with you. Have a good rest of your day.